make sure we're running here on Facebook. And then we can go ahead and start our meeting here. Go ahead and get started. I've got the agenda. I'll put it up here momentarily.
I'm looking at 32 minutes after.
Sounds good. Well, Brian, there you go. Okay, so let me call the meeting to order. Oh, there's Rich. Let me call the meeting to order and let me share screen right here. Let me share my, whoops, there we go. This Glenside Color Computer Festival, or try this and see if, nope, that's probably not what we want. Well, go ahead and I guess I'm gonna start the meeting. The first thing we're gonna do on the discussion here is this is kind of our Coco Fest recap meeting. We've got a few things of business, and I'm happy to entertain some additional stuff if need be. But first thing I wanted to do was go ahead and do the secretary's report from last month. And so, Rich, I'm assuming that you will take that on. So I will turn the mic over to you.
Well, I didn't come prepared to say anything.
Okay.
Did the minutes finally get distributed all right?
They did. They got distributed to everybody, so we can. I mean, I'm working to bring them up here.
I didn't even get a meeting invite in my inbox.
Really?
Yeah, neither did I.
Well,
yeah, you get one either.
Huh. Okay. Well, I guess I will look into that. Not sure why it wouldn't have sent to everybody, but let me
call your IT person there.
Yeah, right. Jim. So I will look at that because I go ahead.
I think an article should be written, Jim, showing the website or the newsletter should show people what you showed me. I can now reach the minutes of the meeting without going through Google Drive.
Oh, got it. Okay.
That was important to me.
Okay. I don't know. I did get it out late this this year, or sorry, this month, but it should have been sent out, so you should have eventually gotten it in your in your mailbox. But I did send it out on the Facebook group, and I did send the thing to the Coco the mailing list. So if that's
was that mailed, Chip?
That was no the mailing list was there we go. So the mailing list is the Coco mailing list. I forget the person's name that runs it, but it's Coco@multimedia.com, I believe. But anyway, here's the meeting minutes. Sorry, it's taken me a little while to get them up, but
that's not Glenside.
Dennis Bathory Kits.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I did post it there, so I'll take a look at what happened. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I had trouble getting them as well, but they did eventually come to me. So so these are the meeting minutes for our October meeting, and my hope is that folks have taken a look at it. I think we basically, the big part of the meeting was the election announcement, which is right here, and so I happy to have discussion and entertain a motion to approve. I'll turn it over to the members.
I'd like to have it corrected that there's an apostrophe missing.
And where is that apostrophe missing? Do you know where it is missing?
No, I'd run it through your spell checker and it'll tell you.
Okay, well,
that's how I found it.
I'll let Brian or Rich take care of that. So,
I knew I would need more details.
We'll read it through. It doesn't take long.
I already read it through. You tell me where the apostrophe is missing. Otherwise, I won't do anything.
Well, I'm in bed right now, and I can't deal with that.
Okay, you'll have to email me later then.
Okay.
Okay. So
I move to approve.
Okay, so Grant there's a motion on the table to approve, and
As amended.
As amended, yes.
We
Motion
don't know
to approve
what
is
the amendment
amended.
is, so that doesn't make any sense.
I'm probably not going to hold it up for a comma. So we have a motion on the floor. Do
An
we have
apostrophe. Apostrophe.
Got it.
Bob, you're wasting our time.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I have
I'm
a
very
second?
sorry.
Do I have a second?
Well, I'll second it.
Okay.
Since I'm out
Okay.
of office now, I think I can do that.
You can't. Well, yeah, you can. Okay, so all those in favor of the meeting minutes for October, please signify.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. And with that, I'm going to transition it to Brian for or Eric, I guess. Who's going to take on the treasurer's report this month?
I got the treasury report.
Okay.
Yeah, Brian will take it on this month. Yep.
Okay. Well, here you go. Anything you need to let us know about?
I'm just going to hit the highlights. I put the bank amounts first and PayPal after that.
Okay.
But PayPal was $431.33 to start.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see, after a payment and a interest, it was $431 and I'm sorry. That was
Go ahead. It's
I don't
on the
think-
screen if you
I don't think
if
that
you're
registered right.
okay.
$431.33 was the ending balance.
No, it's the beginning balance.
Oh no, I put. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm reading. The banks is first, so we started with $13,653.
Mm-hmm.
We had a $70 payment or deposit. I think that was something for the show.
Okay.
56 cents for the interest, and the bank balance was $13,723.56.
Okay.
We had several PayPal payments, which were registration, and show events.
Okay.
We paid out 1 month for the office, which is $9.07 because it's a 31-day month.
Mm-hmm.
And PayPal balance ended with it started with $431.33,
Mm-hmm.
ended with $726.87, and the total, the two accounts would be $14,450.43.
Cool. Okay.
And next month we'll have all the transactions for the Fest event.
Correct. Correct. Okay. Motion to approve would be entertained.
I so move.
Rich
Second.
Bear moves. Grant Leedy seconds. Discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Opposed? Cool. Okay. Well, motion carries. So I'm going to go back to the agenda. Coco Fest updates. Tony, are you online and available to regale us with the details?
What details do you wish?
Well, I'm wondering, I think everybody was interested in some statistics and metrics and so forth, so I didn't know if you could give us some preliminary numbers on that or not.
Yes, I think I can.
Okay.
We have
Yep. you can share something if you want. You want to share something like screen?
Well, number one, the auctions tallied $5,994. I have at this point.
So the the auction,
What's happening?
Yes,
the auctions was what? How much was it again?
5,994.
Okay,
Might
got
be a
it.
record.
I think so.
Definitely. I have a gotta find the right line. A total on expenses
Mm-hmm.
of 3474.13 at this time without any further corrections.
34.
Which
What was it? 34 what?
3474 and 13.
Okay.
As
which may yet be modified after in the coming week because I'm finding more oopses in my bookkeeping and there's a possible additional expenditure related to transportation of material for the fest to take place later tonight.
Okay.
But that's where that is. There was
a question on the expenses. Was the venue paid?
Yeah, the venue was the big chunk of that.
Yeah,
Okay.
well,
How
the
much was-
venue. Hold on, the venue was $3,048.17,
Okay.
which included a dinner cost of $1,735, against which we received. I think. Well, here. Wait a minute. I'm on the right page, but I forgot where I was. We received $1,260 payment. Remember, we say we're going to subsidize it to some amount. So we subsidized it a total of about $400, which is not bad. And then
we
there
had
was
how much was
other
there for
revenue,
tables and whatnot?
tables and whatnot, exactly, of I have $3,165
In
for
tables?
tables and entry donations.
Okay.
So stated for a particular reason.
Okay. That's
with
fine.
With a total current tallied revenue of $9,159, which then minus current expenditures counted gives us a current growth, if you will, for a not-for-profit organization of $56.84
So
So
the table, the 3165, that must have included the dinner sales. Because I've got the numbers up on the screen you've been giving us, but it doesn't quite match what the number is you're giving us. The dinner sales split out. Oh,
for that.
The feedback I heard on the meals was
no.
everybody liked them.
yeah, I think everybody. Well, I mean, number of folks. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You may be correct. I'm not finding the line item.
Okay. Well,
on the dinner
so
sales.
what's the total that you have currently? 50 what?
59. Oh, that's the auction total. So sorry.
50 what?
$5,684.87.
Okay, well that's what we have. Okay, so yeah, the dinner sales must be part of that table number that you gave us. To Bob's point, I think Eric, Tony, you guys went to dinner, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, Rich maybe did as well. So you guys can give your feedback.
I was
Yes.
very pleased with what was offered, and there was no shortage. We could have all had third helpings, I think.
Yeah. And then I think the only complaints I heard about was dessert. People wanted it better.
Yeah, I wanted a little bit better dessert. Maybe we upscale that next spring or whatnot. How many people do we think were at the dinner that actually made it to dinner? I didn't take account. So
I'll
what
say
do you
around
guys think?
50-ish.
Okay,
I would
that's a
say
good number.
50-ish.
Okay, okay. Well, so yeah, about $5,700. And then Rich, I think you had showed somewhere around 75 people attended. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually have a spreadsheet that's different from Tony's in that I'm sort of looking at a different animal. Because, for example, as far as dinners are concerned, Tony is concerned with who actually paid for dinners, because anybody who said he was going to come and paid for a dinner, we ordered a dinner for him, and so that's not really refundable money in a sense.
Right. Correct.
Whereas my spreadsheet only counts the people who were there and had a dinner. So and paid for it, of course. And so I have, for the number of paid dinners, 52, which is about the
Okay.
same.
Well, 52 is about what I saw in the dinner hall, like Grant said.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All of my dollar figures are counting different things too, unfortunately. I count the dollars paid by people who came, and not paid by people who didn't come. So I have a whole list of people who paid ahead of time and then didn't show up. And I think one of our items of business tonight should be, what are our policies regarding refunds or applying it to dues or whatever.
Okay, that's fine. We'll keep
about 25 people, I think, who prepaid but weren't able to come for whatever reason. And I think especially when they were Canadian citizens and couldn't safely come, that they shouldn't be financially penalized for that.
Correct. I think I think what we're good. I mean, I'll put it on as new business tonight, but I know Tony and I think we chatted before, or maybe via email or something. I think he's going to be reaching out to those folks to ask them what they'd like to do. Obviously, if they want a refund, then that's fine. But assuming that they didn't, if they voted in the October election, then we can't refund all their money because they used part of their money as dues in order to vote. So we do need to be aware of that. But for those people who are, that paid and didn't attend, then definitely, we can, if they wish, they can refund, or we can apply the fee to their 2022 attendance or additional dues or whatever. So I think Tony's gonna go and find that out, but we can talk about that more during new business. Is there other statistics that we should relate to the group?
Yeah,
I've got attendees and dinner attendees and.
Hey, Tony, do you know how many auction items we sold? Like how many lots?
Oh, I know that. I can give that information. I got that. Hold on here. Let me look that up.
Let me back up and say that the options they got, money should be either refunded, added to dues, or donated. We have a donation column.
That's right. Good point. Good point.
Thanks.
So let me look at the biggest number that we had here for lots equals max.
108.
No, that's another. There's bigger numbers than that, right? 138. I see.
Oh, wait a minute.
They're not in order. Somebody moved them out of order. So give me a second here, and I will give you the number. 142 lots.
140.
Yep. So 142 auction items or lots that we did during the 3 auctions.
Our average auction item price was $42.
Yes.
Not
That
bad.
looks not too bad. We had a number of 160s and whatever.
And 400 and something.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Unbelievable.
Yep. Well, it was a Burke and Burke Birkenberg with 2 MFM drives, so it was a pretty cool thing.
I understand that a Sinclair 2068 went just for a few dollars less than it was when it was new.
I think so. Is that right, Rich?
That's not bad.
Yes, I was amazed and pleased, and I haven't gotten up the nerve to tell Andrew, who donated it, because the total amount of stuff he donated brought us over $500, and he may have some regrets if I tell him.
Yep. Yeah, that was quite a bit of stuff. That software and the micro drive. The micro drive went for quite a bit of money. I can bring up some of the the $170 was the Sinclair.
That wasn't his, though.
Huh?
That wasn't from Andrew. That was somebody else.
Right. No, I was just looking through the other Sinclair stuff we had, but the Sinclair 2068 with the manual was the one that you had on display, and that one went for $170. So
yeah.
In any event, it was a very productive. I'm sorry.
And the new price was $183. That's the lowest that machine was sold at new.
Oh, really? I know Dan Keller, who bought the unit, was very excited about it, and of course he picked up some stuff on Sunday to go with it. So it was a nice deal. He had some dry or wafer tapes or whatever it is that uses it. It's some software that he was able to pick up on Sunday to go with it. In any event, so we talked about, and I think Tony probably alluded this, but as well. But we talked at the show about, obviously we're in our growth sustains the show for another season, and so we will continue to have the show, and the next date is May 14th and 15th of 2022.
Yeah, Jim,
anything else, Tony? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, there was in the past there was a standing rule of thumb that the early officers looked at and said, as long as the show doesn't lose more than $300, there will be another one.
Oh, okay.
I don't think we have a problem this year.
No, we don't. No. I was just happy, I'll be honest. I was happy that I don't know how many totes of stuff we had when we started, but I know we had 10 tables worth of stuff in that one room, and that all came, a good portion of it anyway, came from those totes that people have been storing in their various garages and houses and so forth. And so I was very happy to see that all that went to somebody who can hopefully make better use of it.
I might add to that the majority of those, at least 20, if not 24, came from Streamwood.
What's Streamwood?
I'll continue to say that the Sinclair part of that was from the Timex Sinclair user group and the Chicago area Timex user group.
We saw some of that written on some of that stuff, so that makes sense.
Very cool.
Okay. Any questions that folks have for Tony? Tony is going to be transitioning the Coco Fest organizational duties to Grant, who is on somewhere. There you are, Grant.
Yep.
For the May show. But anybody have questions or comments or whatnot about the show?
I think this was one of the hardest shows we've ever had to actually record data on, because there were so many people who pre-registered and then couldn't make it and so on. There were categories of yes and no that didn't exist in previous years.
That's true.
And I think in May, I hope in May more people come and whatever. But I think we'll have the process better figured out in May, because we can be ready for those scenarios.
I hope so.
Yep.
And
Hey,
I like
Jim,
to mention.
I'm not seeing the website here highlighting the person speaking like I have in the past. Like I've been froze up on John Mark's shack here for all this time.
Oh yeah, it's that's I don't know. John Mark's not the
I think
spotlight person right at the moment, so you
we
might
can.
we might need to get out and come back in. I don't know.
Actually, I'm seeing John Mark as well.
Oh
Yeah,
really? I'm sorry.
and it should be switching to the person talking. It's like there's a
Okay,
button.
you're right.
There'd be a green
You're
line
right.
around the
Sorry.
box.
Okay. How about
There
now?
you go. That's the
Okay.
way.
Okay. Well, now
Anyway, I was going to mention somewhere I read that I helped with registration with Rich and Eric dealing with everything. I stayed out of it. I was nearby, but they're the ones that did all the registration. I didn't want to confuse issues with me trying to do anything.
Okay.
Just want to set that straight.
Yeah, we do got to simplify the database somehow, but we have a few months to work on correcting our mistakes and
how to record and change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jim,
Good. Well,
somewhere up the line, I want to make a motion. You let me know when I'm to do that.
okay. Well, we can do that as part of new business. So this is just committee updates. So, any other questions for Tony, or maybe questions for Grant?
Not really Coco Fest related, but Tony usually coordinates all the events. So when I was setting this up with Grant, I was like, well, is your email going to be coordinator? And it sounds like there's a question about who's going to actually be coordinating other events, such as the picnic and things like that. Or are we just going to delegate that as the time comes?
I did not know that, but I guess,
did not know that either. I would say.
I
It's
think
a good question because we've relied on Tony for many years for just making sure we have a place to go and.
Well, just to let you know, Tony is still not off the hook for 6 months. I want to reiterate that.
Yeah.
Usually,
I
like
think
at the picnic, the coordinator is usually the guy who turns the sausages and patties over. The cook.
That is true. I think Brian did our last picnic that we did in person.
Yeah. Yep. I think most of the other coordinations that we do are pretty simple, and I think they may be a rotating group of people. Like if we do a spring kind of get together like we did this year, virtual get together, then somebody, I think Steve Strobridge did that, and the picnic, Brian would ordinarily would have enjoyed having everybody over, but he was having some work done to the house, and so that didn't really work out this year, but maybe it will be better in 2022. So it seems to me like it could rotate to various people, but I do think Coco Fest is a big enough deal, and people are sending a bunch of emails, and sometimes they're not sure where to send them, and so I think having a special email address and whatnot for the fest is worthwhile.
Oh yeah.
I would say
simply think that the coordinator for the fest should start it right now as the coordinator, and you say that's Grant Leidy?
Yeah, I actually would say yes. I think Grant, you should step into the role now so that we can get maximum time on getting you up to speed and having you be the coordinator for the next fest.
Yeah, that's the plan. I'm gonna be the coordinator, but I'm still gonna keep Tony in my back pocket to kind of like training wheels, I guess you could say.
Got it. Fair enough.
Well,
good.
I'll be running it, but if I have issues or problems, then I have Tony on my 911 dialer. So
I'll be on his left shoulder.
And I think
Good.
already has
Virtual trainer.
Do you want me on his other shoulder to balance it out?
I'll let Grant figure that out. Well, cool. I think everybody can. It seems like it was a successful fest, and I liked the venue. Of course, I didn't expect that I wouldn't. So the people were really nice to work with, and we've got a punch list of things for next spring. I know there were a lot of people. There was not a lot, but there were a couple people that were sending us notes through the day, trying to scope out where they might want to have a table in the May timeframe. Like they had stuff they wanted to put on the wall and wanted to make sure that there was a spot for them to hang something and whatnot. So that was kind of cool. In any event, I guess if folks have questions afterwards, you can reach out to Tony, or Grant probably has some information as well, and then we'll post some final numbers as soon as we get a response from some of these folks who've, whether they decide to donate or use their money for future dues or or get a refund. So we'll show that, but definitely the fest was successful. So I'll go ahead and move on that. That took care of a little bit of old business, and so the next piece of old business was in the October timeframe. And I know Randy, you're on. I know that we agreed or voted that we were going to perform some auditing of our election pieces, but we deferred that until after the show. And so I thought I'd get an update from you and I think Tony. I think Tony's kind of maybe running it, so maybe one of the two of you could let us know when you think that might kick off.
It could happen at any time. Part of what I was going to talk about tonight was a priority list for Tandy List database registration stuff, and
Okay.
and so if it sounds like that will be our first step is to look into the audit and to create a report on the current state of the election. Although I think that the improvements to Tandy List will ultimately change that workflow anyway. So even though that we'll be reporting on how it's worked in the past, we can also talk about how we envision it working in the future elections.
Okay.
So
That's good.
we could start that immediately.
Okay. Tony, do you have I know you're recuperating from the show. Do you have a timeline that you want to set this up for?
My timeline cannot really start until we grab the member in good standing, quote unquote, dues paid through a particular data entry in that field. Now, to make it easy for the lazy man, if something like that could be put up on the member's profile, and I have stated something to the effect that dues paid through, and then a box where the year could be entered and or could be viewed and then entered by the membership administrator, based upon dues paid or Coco Fest attendance, etc. That would be the easiest thing, but I think there's also a line for dues in the, what do you call, a flat dump, or the dump of the flat database, Randy?
Yeah, this is all the old ways of accomplishing this.
Mm-hmm.
The proper way is to actually enter the amount received, like have a receivables section in Tandy List where we receive money and we apply it properly, and let the system calculate what your dues are paid out to, and not enter it in manually based on some other calculation of receiving of a check or receiving of this or that. We need to enter all this data into Tandy List and let it do the math.
So I understand your point. I think what Tony's saying is he needs to have some way of, in order to perform the audit, we need to know.
Well, okay, yeah, and that's the other way for the audit is we do a daily backup on the database. So I can bring the database into our test system because we have two environments. We have a production Tandy List and a test one. And I can bring the test one to where the data sat the day we did the calculation for the voting. So
Okay.
that very day, that's where the database sat. That means the dues field, what value it had in it, where the other fields that are being calculated upon. So we can bring it back to that state. So then then we can do some reporting on those fields that are outside of the UI right now, and I can bring those into Excel for Tony to show him.
Tony,
like,
would that support
Oh,
what you need to do, Tony?
Could I break in here?
Sure.
We have a picture of the Tandy database the day before and the day after election. And all we're asking right now is a list of the names who weren't counted. And that's all. And what we want to do is, Tony and I have planned out that piece of information will close out the auction, and we can write the happy report that everything's fine.
Audit, you mean?
All
Close out the
we're looking for is the input from Randy as to the list of names of those who couldn't vote. That's all we're asking.
Okay. So, I guess Randy?
Yeah, I mean, it's doable. Again, I have to go back to a backup
It's
because
real
that
easy.
data's changed.
It's easy this year. What?
Okay, so
So I have to go to a backup because I need to be able to recreate that night exactly, and then modify the query to, instead of doing a tally, but to show the excluded names. But I don't know what that tells you as far as the audit goes, because the audit is supposed to describe how we came to the conclusion of the names. I mean, that gets you one step further, I guess. It allows you to know if there's a problem, I guess. But
yeah, well, first off, we want the list of names so we can discover if there is a problem.
Right.
If there isn't one, we're done.
Okay.
I assume what Bob means is we want a list of people who voted, but then were turned down in their vote.
We're excluded from the tally. Yes.
Because the number of people who didn't vote, who would have been excluded, is a very large number, probably.
Yeah, and it's
we're not
irrelevant.
worried about that.
No,
yeah,
we're not.
it's irrelevant.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the meeting is a poor place to kind of do the design work here. I was just wondering if you guys can commit to getting together maybe in the next few weeks or so, and get this information transitioned or created or whatever in the next few weeks, so that we can have maybe a preliminary kind of, I guess, at least an update in the December meeting.
Yes.
Okay, Tony, is that
Randy? I'll go one step further. I want to go one step further with Randy. We're also going to look to see if there was anybody who nominated somebody for office, if they were paid up or not. And that's all we're going to do for this year.
Okay, that's fair.
Nominated.
You don't have to.
Do we have that recorded, I guess, in the minutes?
Yes, we do.
In the minutes of the October meeting.
Okay.
Yep, actually, it's the minutes of the September meeting. So, okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would like to have update on where we are at the December meeting. So, Tony, Randy, I don't know, Tony, who else is in your group that's going to look into this?
Well, right now it's just the three of us.
Okay.
We may need somebody who can look at PayPal, because if we're worried about who's paid up and who's not, we didn't discover discrepancies until Coco Fest. I know of at least
Okay.
2 people who paid up and weren't recorded as paid up.
Okay. So, Eric, since you're the new treasurer, do you think you could tackle that
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
group?
I'm available if anybody needs records of anything.
Okay. Okay. So that's that. Any other? I don't know. I don't know that I have any other old business. And so for that, we'll switch to new business. And I don't have anything actually for new business right now, other than I think Bob, you said you had an item that you wanted to bring up.
Yes.
Okay.
The purpose for the following motion is we found that we had left things out, had forgotten to do things because of the updating, basically, of the inner circle, I got to call it, which is
Okay.
those people who've been running it for years and years, switching over to new people, and then items that we used to do didn't get done.
Okay.
As you pointed out, coffee. We had always had coffee. We'd always had Danish. That didn't happen because it fell off the visibility, and so there's the other situation is we always used to carry all the auction stuff to the fest from the storage points to the fest using Econoline vans rented. Okay. This year we didn't use them. Instead, we used personal vehicles, people's own vehicles to move this stuff. Okay. I am making a motion to reimburse those people that had to move that stuff as though they had rented an Econoline from someplace. In other words, we know what it costs to do that. There is a fee per day, and there is a mileage. And we would like those people that had to move stuff, like Eric, like Tony, like whoever. That was heavy duty stuff, but it was on their own vehicles. And what my motion is that we reimburse them for the costs per the costs of what the rented vehicle we would have had to pay for. And Tony tells me that at the present time, the vehicles we're talking about would earn $20 a day, and each person would say what he thinks the mileage was, and we will reimburse them from our treasury with that figure, so that we can get, if you will, these vehicles back on the spreadsheet that we'll use from henceforth. And we can put the coffee in Danish there too. That's my motion.
Okay, that's a motion.
Do I hear a second?
So is there a second?
Can you shorten it as a statement?
I'll let the secretary shorten it.
I think that was the secretary
If
asking.
you want to hear it said again, the motion is to reimburse the auction stuff handlers as though they had rented a van out of their pocket, okay, and the van and the fuel. That they turn in a receipt for that much money, the van plus the mileage. Tony can explain that mileage a little bit better than I can. Over to you, Tony.
Well, I haven't looked at any figures on the website yet, but the going rate, again, as Bob said, the going rate for a Ford Econoline size van from
Usually it was a stretched windowless.
U-Haul?
I'm trying to remember the name of the company.
U-Haul or Enterprise?
Yes, U-Haul.
Like a
Thank you.
statement.
Gee whiz. What a not brain.
We can figure out the costs later. Weren't we
Yeah,
going to
we can figure it out later, but
the motion?
Yeah, and I I have a motion on the floor, but I don't know that I have a second. So
Well, what's the motion? Can we give one?
to
Reimburse.
sounds
I gave it
People
twice
that deliver-
already. You want to hear the
it's to reimburse
The
for,
motion is to reimburse the people that handled the auction stuff
And
for their vehicle usage.
right, but there was another one. There was and.
oh, the
of the van
danishes and the coffee.
Oh, and we have
But
Danish.
that's covered by the hotel, so I wouldn't think we need that.
Yeah, that leave the coffee and Danish off of there. That was another
Okay.
problem.
Got it.
We'll
got
take
it.
care of that.
I would
So-
second reimbursing people.
Okay.
Excellent.
So there's a motion. There's a motion and a second. So any discussion on the item?
I guess my
Go ahead.
discussion is, I mean, I donated my time, so I mean, maybe being reimbursed for the trip would be nice, but I don't know.
Yeah, we can't reimburse the time, but we sure can the vehicle. And we're talking
Yeah,
at least $20 a day.
Yeah, I guess my
But
my
wouldn't
thing
you
was
thought- I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was
Grant.
just
Go ahead.
thinking. I was just thinking, though. I mean, if you went to the fest, you would go in your personal vehicle anyway, so it should make a difference if you.
I had to go twice. I had to go.
Okay.
I had to go
Okay.
there, drop it off, come back,
No,
home,
if
play, and then go out again.
see, his vehicle wasn't big enough. So we're talking, you'd go out, you'd rent a Ford Econoline stretch van, windowless, for $20 a day. You'd pick it up on a Friday, you take it back on a Monday, you figure it that way.
Yeah.
So you'd be reimbursed for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Oh no.
No,
wouldn't
no, no.
be
I
reimbursed
would.
for that.
Yeah, I don't think that's a
Just
good
one
idea.
trip is enough for me, and that's not a big deal.
I guess
No, that's
I mean, I transported the stuff from the show to the, to where we're storing it, and it was a little bit of an annoyance because I probably should have done it first before I'd filled up the truck because we had a little trouble putting everything in there, but it was only like a block or so it wasn't any big deal. I think the other one is, my hope is that we don't in the future have so much stuff that we have to gather from various locations and transport to the show like we had to this time. This was, this may be a little bit of an anomaly, but I think Eric makes a good point in that there was some transport that he did early before the show to move the stuff from Bob's location to his parents' house and then bring it back to the show or to the main area. So that it could be cleaned and then store it for a little while. And then
he's
obviously,
the main benefit of this.
that's right. So,
He's
but
the
I guess,
main benefit.
I know. And
Me and Tony are the people who brought other like club things. Yeah.
that's right. So, but I guess my
So
thinking
we're,
is,
he probably had 40 days for it.
my view would be is I worry that it could be the way it's kind of written. If we reimburse everybody who brings something, and to your point, Grant, if somebody brings 3 or 4 totes from Wisconsin in the May timeframe and they say, well, I donated, so I need reimbursed for my travels to and from Wisconsin, I worry that's really not the intent of what we're describing here. And so I guess my thinking is it would be better to provide some sort of, and then cover things like Danishes and coffee and stuff like that. Even though you're right, Grant, those were taken care of by the show. It seems to me like it would be better to provide some sort of fund, so to speak, for these kind of incidental costs for the coordinator of the Coco Fest to use at their discretion to address these issues. Like, this is a special case and we need to provide some money to somebody because they transported stuff, and so we'll pay it out of this fund that we've pre-allocated for that. That's kind of my thought. Yeah, Rich?
Just a comment. I'm not sure it exactly applies here, but if we do get approved as a nonprofit organization, one of the questions that they ask is, are any of the officers of the club compensated in any way from the money taken in by the club? And I think your answer is supposed to be no.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this isn't really compensation, it's reimbursement, but we still need to be careful about that, I think.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it would be covered under.
If there were something modified to my motion, it would deal with moving the stuff from where it's stored to the show and back again where it's being stored.
Yeah, and I think it should be
Not
club
not
property.
people like myself, or not people like somebody bringing in a couple of items from home. Those people, no. It's those people that had to handle it between storage and the fest. And
Well,
right now I can think of only 3 guys that qualify for that.
yeah, I don't foresee that being a problem in the future because the storage location is a block and a half away from the site.
Well, nevertheless, there's been there's a lot of stuff that wouldn't fit in a normal vehicle.
Well, yeah, in the past, true. Currently,
This year,
no.
next year shouldn't be.
Yeah,
an
next
issue.
year will be
I don't think that. I don't think. I mean, my view is, I get what you're saying, Bob, but I feel like the club has more of a responsibility to not let such a backlog appear, right? Because that was a challenge in its own right, and quite frankly, our free storage location at the I don't even know what the name of their warehouse is because they don't have a cute name for it yet, but Jason and Mike, they would be more than happy to stow the 9 totes of stuff that we have there currently. But if we end up with 30 totes or whatever, I would not feel comfortable asking them to store our stuff there because I feel like we would be probably abusing the privilege. They've got plenty of stuff there. As long as we are an insignificant part of their overall storage needs, then I think we kind of slide in under the radar. So I think there's even more focus on us to make sure that we don't end up with a ton of stuff. I mean, there's a whole lot of other reasons.
Well,
go ahead.
It's going to happen. Okay, you're not going to turn it off. What I'm trying to do is to make sure that vans rented, and we've been doing it 2 vans per year, are noted on that spreadsheet so that we have it, we pay it. Okay, that's what I'm after.
I understand. I don't think there's any misunderstanding about what you're asking. I think the key is whether it's something the club wants to do or not. And I think people are giving their opinions. Eric, did you have another comment that you wanted to make?
Yeah. So the I guess the transportation costs, yeah, that should be whatever. But going forward, we do need somebody to transport from the new storage facility to Coco Fest and back. And that may not be you, Jim. What if you don't make it? What do we do? Who's going to So I think we should pay for that service. I think we should also pay for our storage at their facility, even if it's just a small donation. And then I also think we should consider reimbursing people for expenses in donations, like the expense of shipping it to us, the expense of bringing it to us, because that's our mission, is to redistribute this stuff and keep it out of the landfill. And we have the funds to pay for it. So I think we should, as a general rule of thumb, reimburse people for the expense of donation.
Okay. Anybody, any other comments? Mark, Chris, Randy, Grant?
The only thing I would
Neil?
suggest for the donation for for use of the facility, I think that we should probably make a donation to VCF Midwest, since that's what Jason does. In my opinion.
Excuse me, we have a motion on the floor. You're talking about something else.
Yeah.
Comment.
And he's right. We do have a motion on the floor. So, I think Tony wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, it was me, Tony.
Okay.
Just a comment on past history. While I was blessed with a large Ford Econo vans, and while the stuff was being stored at my house, transportation of those goods was totally donation on my part. The only time that well, let me back up a minute, rephrase this. When those vehicles were no longer at my disposal, then it became necessary to acquire a U-Haul van to move the stuff. That was, I think we only did it for like 3 years, maybe 4. And then, since it was a direct expense in support of the show, that's when the motion was made back when to reimburse me for that. It was not at my request, but at somebody else's. Don't care who it was, doesn't matter. But it was a direct expense related to the show. At this point in time, since I personally, again, was blessed with a large enough vehicle to transport, again, I'm not asking for any reimbursement. I had to come to the show anyway. And since I had the capability, that moving volume basically was, again, a labor of love in terms of donation.
But to your point,
let me continue. Let me close. If the group here tonight decides to second the motion and indicate that they would be willing to reimburse the people for their vehicular transportation of club's goods in support of the show, I will not vote against it. However, if it does pass, seconded and is passed, I would make the provision within that if anybody does wish to be reimbursed, that they should submit that information numerically or whatever, or the club make a flat reimbursement figure, or they do not wish to be reimbursed and so indicate, again, by notifying the officers, and it will go down strictly as a donation for whatever dollar figure the officers deem appropriate. And that's all I just want to say. It just kind of rounds out everything how I feel, and I will now release the floor.
Jim, I would like to modify the motion to include what Tony just said.
Okay.
Did you get that, Secretary?
Man, poor Brian.
Yeah. It's not me now.
In other words, we're putting out the offer, but you can turn it down.
Yeah. Okay.
For this year only. For this year only.
Well, I think that's probably not in the spirit of what Bob wants. I think Bob wants this to be done going forward.
Ongoing.
Yeah. The reason I brought up, and maybe to Grant's point, I worry that this is, I mean, it's fine, but it covers one use case, and I worry that, you know, there's been conversations about these incidental expenses related to the club. I think, Eric, you brought up some. People want to donate, but they're in Alaska and they need to mail it to us. Well, we should probably reimburse for their mailing, right? That's not the motion on the floor. I get it. But I'm just wondering if this is better handled by providing a fund, a small fund of
Petty
so
cash.
many hundreds of dollars. Yeah, petty cash that is given in, you know, in earnest to the Coco Fest coordinator to use to handle these things. And so they just handle them, right? If we need to buy Danishes, then they buy Danishes. And if we need to buy paper at the club, then, Eric goes and buys it and we immediately reimburse because the paper, Eric did it out of the goodness of his
If a
heart.
guy's getting rid of his collection,
I'm sorry, what?
if a guy's getting rid of his collection, as
Yep.
we have in the past, he has been reimbursed, hasn't he, Tony?
There have been occasions,
Yeah.
but it's been
What-
on a
what do you-
one-on-one basis.
Everybody
You
I've
mean
offered,
reimbursed for shipping or something? What do you mean reimbursed?
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
When
the guy was selling everything he had, and we
Okay.
bought his collection, if you will, to have at the auction.
Oh, got it. Okay, well, fair enough. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
yeah, as the club person who was taking stuff in, I got a few donations and I offered to reimburse them, and I figured if the club wouldn't reimburse it, I would. And all of those donations they didn't want to be reimbursed, but I always made it an option.
Yeah, I see there being a lot of these kind of corner case needs for some funds that could be handled if the motion was a little bit more generic, as opposed to just talking about Econoline vans and transport of material to and from the club. The other one is I think it would make sense to put it in the hands of the coordinator to, to just handle these things on an as needed and as merited thing. If somebody, like we said earlier, if somebody's coming to the show and they have a donation, then maybe it makes sense to reimburse them for travel to the show. Maybe it doesn't. The coordinator seems like they'd be in a good position to answer that question. And I'd prefer not to have to vote on every one of these things individually at one of our meetings, right? So I guess that's my only thing against the current motion on the floor, is that I feel like it's a little bit limiting, and it would be better to have something that's more encompassing, because it could be used for so many different other things in addition to the transport of materials.
There was so much movement by Eric and his son that I've made this motion because we forgot we used to be shipping with vans, and here this poor guy had to make 2 trips to his folks' house to get the job done.
So Jim, I have a question. So how much of a petty cash fund should we have for something like this? Because
well,
if we
I don't know that I want
to. Then we can just reimburse Eric for his the expenses and then be done with
I
it.
was just bringing it up as part of discussion. I don't know that I would. I mean, it's not the motion on the floor. I think, and that's why I don't want to get too much into it. But you get my point, right, Eric?
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe we should vote on this motion and then we can discuss a budget as the next topic.
Yeah, that's fine. If this passes, then we're done. Any other discussion items on this particular item? So the motion on the floor is an ongoing transportation reimbursement for materials coming to and from the show, to be offered. It can be turned down. I think I've got it right.
And I think it should be
yes, sir.
Right.
It's what'd you say?
It's already the club's property. It's not
already the club's property. Any other discussion items? Anyone else that wants to weigh in?
Is it just for this year or future years in the future?
Ongoing, this year and future. Okay. Okay. Well, doesn't appear to be any more discussion, so I'm going to close discussion, and I'm going to ask for a vote on this topic. So the motion on the floor is as I just described it, and those who are in favor of this transportation reimbursement offer, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And those opposed?
Abstain.
Aye.
Okay, so it does not appear to have passed.
Sorry, Eric.
So,
well, that's okay. I was going to abstain, and I did abstain because I don't really want the money anyway. I donated my time and gas. So
yep.
No, I think that's great,
So
and I think if we set up a budget for this scenario, that would be the best.
okay. So is there a, I mean, so is there a, I guess, any other motions on the floor or a modification of this motion that somebody wants to pose?
Well, let me try.
Okay.
I make a motion that we establish a petty cash fund for the fest coordinator to draw on for minor things, and that it start off for, let's say, $400 for the first year, on the assumption that it doesn't necessarily all get spent in 1 year. It can be rolled over to the next year, but that gives
Okay.
the fest organizer a cushion so that he doesn't need to keep people waiting who need to be reimbursed.
Okay. That's fine. Could,
So my
if we
motion
do
is-
establish, if this, just for clarity, if this motion is seconded and voted on and approved, do you foresee this potentially being used by the show coordinator to reimburse in the fashion that we just discussed?
Yes.
So potentially offering reimbursement to Eric for his transportation? Okay.
Yes, at
Okay.
his option, and I think it would be standard operating procedure for the fest organizer to expect some sort of a request. You know, he doesn't pay unless somebody asks for it, and they would ask for a specific amount and detail it and so on.
Okay. Okay.
And I
So
would
there
say,
is a, go
I
ahead.
would say for that process, if for some reason the coordinator doesn't want to pay that request, we would certainly welcome a request at the meeting. So
Correct. Correct. This is
somebody-
just a kind of a shortcut process to take care of things without a lot of red tape, right? If it makes sense, right? Okay. So there's a motion.
I'd like
Oh,
to,
go ahead.
I'd like
Go
to get that modified to include buying or paying the seller of his whole bunch of stuff to get it here to the fest.
That's
Is that
fine.
for
So we've
purchase
got
of
the guy
items or-
who's moving. We've got the guy who's moving from storage to the fest, and now the same motion on the floor would also allow for somebody selling stuff to let us buy his stuff and bring it into the storage.
Well, does Grant want to be in charge of buying items for the club?
Well, but the thing
Yeah,
is when
well,
a buy,
he's the head man. Absolutely.
you know,
It would
I think
always
the
go to
key-
the coordinator.
yeah, I think the key would be, I guess my thinking is that if somebody is trying to make a decision about whether to sell things and we want to approach them, you know, that like I'm thinking just this could happen. Like we have our meeting tonight, and then tomorrow on the mailing list, somebody says, you know what, I got to get out of this. I need to sell my stuff. I just want to get it to a good home. And so one of us sends a note to them and we say, you know, are you interested in selling to the club at a reduced price? And they go, you know what, if you're going to take it all, that's great. I'll sell it to you for $200 or whatever. But he or she's not going to want to wait a month to have a decision on whether we actually are going to be able to fund that or not. So it seems like we could use those funds in there, and maybe we do some of the legwork on it, but Grant ends up is the one who says, yep, I think that's okay, or whoever the coordinator is, that says that's okay to do that because it serves to further the work of the fest, right? Because the donation would be something we would use in the auction.
Yeah, I think that'd be great. Grant, is that something you actually feel comfortable doing?
Yeah, I think we can definitely do that. Although if we're doing $200 to donate, though, we might need to meet more than $400.
Well, I think the key there is
The guy,
I think
the
what
guy would like to get rid of it. The guy would like to get rid of it without having to pay for the shipping, and so we pay for the shipping.
We pay for the shipping, or maybe we pay for the shipping, and I mean it's up to some discretion. My view in Rich's motion is that he's just putting an arbitrary number there, and if we do use the money, like if it ends up as March or something, and we've already used all the petty cash, I don't see any reason why we can't replenish the petty cash with a simple vote to say, I moved to
Absolutely.
put another $400 in the hopper so that Grant's got some more money so that he can prepare for the fest.
Well, I think maybe we should make two funds, one for Coco Fest and one for items that we want to receive.
Okay.
Oh.
So
I didn't hear the end of that.
Contingent
Hoo,
on,
hoo, hoo.
since we're a nonprofit and we can't provide a benefit to other people to be our member, I think that may violate our status.
Buying items to auction may violate our
Right.
status.
Comment.
Say,
We're not.
yeah, go
We
ahead.
wouldn't,
Hold
we're
on.
not buying. We're not buying. We're paying shipping.
Well, that's not what we're talking about exactly, though.
You're providing the
Well,
benefit to them.
we may have to do that. I mean, Brian makes a good. My
Right.
example may be a bad example, and so we can only say, you know what, we could reimburse you shipping for it. Tony's got a comment he wants to make.
It follows along the line of what you were just saying, Jim. If we acquire items and pay for the items, we become a reseller, and by such a definition in my mind, we are now a profit organization. If we are just reimbursing for shipment,
Yeah.
and then
Nope.
and then exchange the product in the auction for cash funds, then we are still a not-for-profit because we are auctioning to pay for the expenses of the show, and we are not, quote-unquote, reselling equipment for which we have paid.
I don't think that matters, because think of the concept of a nonprofit who bakes cookies. They go and buy all the materials for baking the cookies and then make the cookies and then resell the cookies in order to fund the nonprofit. So I don't think buying and selling causes you not to be a nonprofit.
Yeah, I would agree with Randy. And we would be providing a service of gathering these materials, storing them, cleaning them, and we're not looking to make a profit on it. We are putting it in an auction where it could go for significantly less.
Yeah, you guys have got a good point, because there's places that are nonprofits that I've gotten a book from, let's say, and so they'll say, suggested donation for the book is X number of dollars, and then when I get a document for IRS purposes, it has the donation that I made, and then it subtracts from that the cost of the book that they purchased or that they sold me, and then the net between those two numbers is what my benefit is, my benefit. So that's what I get to claim from an IRS perspective, is the benefit. So it was okay for them to sell me a book and be a nonprofit, which they obviously bought the book or whatever, but they can't claim. So I can get a benefit, but my donation needs to be more than the benefit, I guess, is the way. It can't be a net benefit, right?
Yeah.
So. We actually have a motion on the floor, but not a second. So we're kind of doing discussion. We
You've
probably
got
ought
a
to get a
second.
second if we're. Oh, do we? Were you?
You've got a second.
Who was
Bob,
who seconded?
the second.
Oh, Bob. Okay, sorry.
Bob.
Any other discussion on the topic?
For petty cash?
Anyone?
I think we should raise it to $500.
I was thinking that too. Just makes it easy.
I agree.
Okay, I'll reform my motion.
Okay, that's fine. I'm not sure. I think your idea of two funds may be premature, Eric. That's my thought. Is maybe let's see if we need to split the fund in half, and then if we do, we can always deal with that at a subsequent meeting. I'm not sure I want to try and build too much formality in this unless we absolutely need it.
When does the fund replenish?
I think it replenishes every fest.
Yeah, I think it should be the day after the fest, maybe, or
That's fine. That's fine.
just so we have a spreadsheet that says
Yep.
this day.
But this
Okay.
wasn't part of the motion, but I would say as needed. In other words, if Grant has spent all the money but thinks there are still good opportunities for using it, he can come to the meeting and say, let's put more in.
I mean,
Yeah,
automatic. It replenishes automatically without
I'm
us.
not. I struggle with that a
He
little
can
bit. I think.
do
Go ahead.
better to come to the board of directors say.
Yeah, I would prefer that there be some touch point before we start dumping $500 chunks in there automatically, because it could turn into an endless. I mean, not that I'm suggesting Grant's going to go grab a bunch of things and just disappear, but I think we do need to have some checks and balances, because at $500, if we did find somebody in this Coco Fest organizer role and they decided, you know what, I'm going to take the $500 and run, if we continue to replenish that or set it up so it automatically replenishes, we could end up tons and tons of money in the, gone before we really realize what's going on.
Oh, I'm not talking about cutting Grant the check for five. I'm talking about, we would still hold the funds, but the ledger would say Grant has access. And I don't know about.
There to make
Hold on.
sure that.
Hold on, Bob. Let Eric finish.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Eric.
And I guess I don't know about just adding 500 every year. I think maybe it should start over at 500. Maybe I use it.
Yeah,
use it sort of deal.
Sorry, I was only thinking because Rich's point was you didn't have to use it in a given year, but I don't think the fund should grow by 500. I think the fund should have a total of 500 in it the day after the fest. So the day after the fest, it now has, if it had $350 in it, then we top it up to 500. That's the way I would see it working. And I don't think it's so horrible to have a bit of accountability $500 should get you at least a month, I would think, unless it's a big expense. And if it's a big expense, I would assume the coordinator could come to us ahead of time and say, listen, there's we need to put a down payment on the venue and it's $1,500. Well, that's not a petty cash thing. That's a vote on it and get it in place and cut them the check. The $500 would be little incidental things, and surely wouldn't have more than $500 of incidental things in a given month to where we couldn't have a conversation about it in the future month so that we could vote to go ahead and put a little bit more money.
Yeah, I agree. We can keep a running balance that we can include on the treasurer's report. So that should be no problem.
Well, I heard
Bob's.
350 thrown out there. That would be the equivalent of 2 Sinclairs.
That's right. That's right. So Bob, you had a comment after Eric.
No.
Oh, okay.
I think you heard somebody else and you thought it was me.
Oh, okay. Who else anybody else have a comment?
The motion is to have a petty cash fund of $500.
Yep.
For the show coordinator to use. Okay.
That's right. That tops up to $500 the day after the fest.
And I would say if it needs to be replenished, then it needs to be brought up to the president, vice president, and treasurer.
I think it could be brought up at a regular meeting here.
I think a regular meeting. Unless it's an emergency, and then we can figure that out.
Yeah, I guess we can always do those sort of things.
We could do it in a board meeting, and a board meeting could be the meeting after tomorrow.
Well,
so
it could be.
Time would take the problem of time out of there.
Call the question.
True. I'm just thinking. Yeah, go ahead, Tony.
No, I'm saying let's call for a vote.
Oh, sorry. Let's call the question. Yes. So there's been a request to vote on the motion on the floor. So those who are in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay. Those opposed? Okay. That motion carries. So since the motion is carried and intended for it to be used for this current fest, or the just past fest, Grant, you now have access, you and Tony have access to this petty cash. And so if you want to work with those who needed some transportation costs, feel free to do so. Okay. So I think we got where we wanted to go, where we wanted to be, just kind of a little bit different route. Is there any other new business?
Just have one question for Randy, if I may ask. When will we have the registration open? When's the? Because I'm getting emails already for people wanting to register for Fest for next year.
2020.
I know that you're planning to make some background changes and everything. So.
Are they requesting vendor?
Yeah,
Tables.
tables. And
Yep.
Lots, yeah.
Yeah, we usually try and get it ready by January, right?
Yeah, the plan is to have it ready by January. So that's pretty aggressive because I'd like to make some changes that would improve the process in our accounting and our managing of all the different ways that we're having people register, that everybody actually registers through Tandy List so we can have a proper accounting of things. I'd like to get that done before we open it up. So, and that means creating management pages where when we receive a check, we can actually enter that check into like kind of a receivables screen. So mid-January, I'd say.
Okay.
Would be
Works for me.
my guess.
Okay.
And I'd like to work with Eric and Jim to prioritize the features because we also want integration with MailChimp. There's also, there's several other things that we want to improve in the system, and I would like to get a solid priority list. So, Jim, if you and me and Eric could talk hopefully soon so we can get a list together.
Yeah,
I will.
We can do this in the technology board on Discord. We should probably set up a GitHub or a GitLab and do it that route.
That's fine by me.
Okay.
I'd like to work
Randy?
on a punch list on it.
Yep. Randy, I
Bob
think Bob's got
Spoker.
a question.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, Randy, could you please add Tony to the list? And the reason is he has some special pleasures he'd like to see to make things more readable and usable to him. Would you take him on as part of your group?
Well, sure, but if he's turning it over to Grant, then maybe.
Well, he's turning the responsibility, but I think you would enjoy his inputs.
Okay.
I will try to get a
Tandy
meeting
list?
scheduled. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That would be to the Tandy List.
Yes.
Bob just said list.
Yes.
Yeah,
Tandy
sorry,
List.
Tandy List.
Okay.
The enhancements to Tandy List. Yes.
Yeah. So I will try to get something set up for early next week.
Yeah, if you would add me to that list too, that'd be great.
Okay. That's fine. And you're right. Let's use a channel to talk about what we want to do, and I'll coordinate there. Randy has access to that as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do have one order of business.
Yeah, go ahead.
I talked to you at the show, and I was thinking that it looks like we have a surplus of money, and
You think?
I think that we should, instead of borrowing the PA equipment from the other show, I think we should purchase our own. There's a lot of benefits to this, but one of them is that we know what we have, and we won't be responsible for making sure someone else's equipment, is taken care of. We can take care of our own equipment, and so I think we're talking about less than probably less than $1,000 for some good cordless microphones and a sound system.
Okay.
Well, we should get projectors as well. I think in this case we should do a proposal.
A high res projector as well. And what I'm proposing is that we get some numbers and then come back, but I just wanted to create the initiative.
That's fine. I think it's I don't think it's I think it's perfectly okay. Obviously can't really have I don't know that we can have a motion until we have some idea of what the costs are that are involved, but if you could bring something back to us in the next meeting or maybe the January meeting,
Yeah.
we could look at it. I'll be honest with you, I struggle with it just slightly because it's equipment that we'll need to shuttle back and forth to the to our facility, to the facility, and currently the facility is where the VCF Midwest folks are storing their stuff.
Mhm.
So I mean, I totally agree with your perspective. I was really concerned that we were going to miss something, that when we borrowed their stuff, and then
Yeah,
we
it
would
was.
be
We struggled with that, with the not knowing what the equipment was and having to find patch cables and basically work with whatever they had.
Well, and
Um,
these are going to be permanent purchases. They'll last for at least 10 Cocoa Fests, right? We're talking 10 years or more.
yeah,
oh yeah,
and
yeah.
and if
I
we're
don't
and
expect.
if we're going to transport their equipment, then we have the same hassle of transporting our own equipment, but we
Well,
would just be
you got a point there. Yeah, I
yeah
was thinking more like storage because it's extra storage when it's there, and since we're using their facility, that's probably where I was more concerned.
right for the
I could
storage.
see pros and cons for it. So
We'll still have lines of communication open. So if they want to borrow our equipment and we want to borrow their equipment, it just means we're going to have more equipment to use.
Yeah, but then we'll have more predictability and we'll have
Mhm.
less responsibility for making sure that their equipment stays in
Well,
shape.
I'm definitely not going to shoot it down because I think it's a worthwhile endeavor. I will say that I think the the virtual streamed presentations that the group did for this Solo Fest was really cool. I mean, it just really was a cool setup. And so I know you guys struggled with the equipment that you had because it was all brand new. And so if this serves that end, then that's great. I really do think that we should continue to do the streaming and the putting the presentations out there for folks to look at afterwards. I think it creates more. Um, it lets the Coco Fest event live on longer than if it was just for those people who were there that day. Now people can go back and watch the Brendan Donaghy's video for months or years. So I was very
Yeah,
impressed.
and it can also inspire people to want to come out to it. I think. Yeah.
That's true. Well,
And the nice
put
and
some.
the nice thing, I was going to say, the
Go ahead.
nice thing too is therefore we don't have to rely on Stevie putting this stuff into a suitcase and flying it all the way up from Florida, or Randy having to bring it all the way up to. It'd be kind of nice to have that here locally in Chicago.
I want to be clear. I think anything that we did not get from VCF Midwest, we absolutely should purchase, right? The patch cables that we didn't have, that people had to kind of pack in their suitcases and bring, we should buy those. That is a no-brainer. My only concern was around the stuff that ends up being duplicative of the stuff that the Fest or the VCF folks provided to us. I don't want to discount Randy's concern. It's a valid concern, and it was a concern of mine. Maybe not so much for the PA systems, but definitely those wireless microphones with the 20 little pieces inside. I was so scared that we would forget
Well,
a piece, and if it
and
was ours and we
honestly,
forget a piece.
yeah. Well, I'm sorry, but the other thing is, I think that we can get a lot. We had some trouble with those mics. I think they're a little older. I think they're a
Okay.
little cheaper. I think we can get a lot better ones that wouldn't have. We had some buzzing and some channel conflicts. And
You
so,
can easily win me over, and yes, Grant, to your point, I think there should definitely be a resident setup that we can have at the person's disposal who does this work and not have to force people to use their personal device to do the streaming, or at least offer it to them if they want to. Like I'm kind of backwards. I like bringing my own equipment because I know it the best, but some people would. You're right. If they're traveling from a long distance, the last thing they want to do is bring a device that they're not even going to get to use that weekend because it's going to be stuck at the mixing console, being used for streaming. So I think
well,
that's an
the other
excellent
thing,
idea.
if there was ever any conflict with Midwest needing their equipment,
Yeah,
while
we'd
we
have our own
needed
stuff,
ours,
right?
yeah.
Yep. Rich, sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
And to contribute the idea that if we end up with significant amounts of valuable equipment, I think there should be a directorship established, somebody who is in charge of that, because I remember there was a moment before the fest where somebody said, well, doesn't the club own a projector? And we were all kind of looking at each other. Well, do we? We don't know for sure.
Probably, you mean like a quartermaster?
Yeah, there should be somebody who knows what we own, knows how to operate it, and takes on all that responsibility, because it's not just the stuff, it's the brains we need too.
No, you make an excellent point, because we found, Tony and I, just so everybody knows, and I know we're at the top of the hour and I do want to finish the meeting, but we were going through those 30 some odd boxes or 40 some odd boxes of stuff that was brought to the fest, and intermixed in the boxes was stuff that's the club's stuff. I mean, it's not donation stuff. It was, well, some of it might have been, but it ends up being useful for the club itself. And one of them was a Birkin. We have the club has its own Birkenberg controller with an MFM hard drive and a power supply. And I bet none of you, well, some of you I'm sure knew that, but I bet most of you didn't know that. Plus, there was a couple devices, and here's the reverse case of this for Rich. I remember Rich came in partway through the event. We were setting up for the auction, and I turned to Rich and asked him if he knew anything about this particular Coco that had a floppy drive mounted to the top of it, because we weren't sure if it was the club's or if it was a donation, right? We weren't sure of the negative either. And so I think you're right. And in knowing what is ours versus what is not ours is a very impressive, important thing. So I will take that under advisement.
Yeah, I began a list like that with my inventory that I was holding for the club. I'd be willing to take that on for the inventory that now resides at our facility. Maintain that. Now it's actually manageable. Before it was just so much, I never got it done.
Well, that activity needs to be done as part of the board meeting, and that meeting has been rescheduled to be December. So we can bring it up then.
Was that meeting December what?
It's the Thursday, December 2nd, I believe.
So if we're moving on to more business, I know you wanted to finish up, but there was some question about refunds for people who didn't.
Oh, yeah. Randy or somebody wanted to know about refund. Who wanted to know about refunds? Oh, it was you, Rich, wasn't it?
Well, I was bringing up the topic. I wasn't asking for any answers, really.
Well, I guess my recommendation as treasurer is we should close the books. Anybody who wants a refund, who could not make it due to restrictions at the border, I mean, maybe we could make an exception for those people, but everybody should have contacted us ahead of time. Our meals aren't refundable to us. So I think we should just close our books and move on to the next year.
I don't know what that means.
I agree.
Close the books.
Close the books means Coco Fest is done. We aren't making any refunds, reimbursements. We're done with Coco Fest.
My opinion is that's bad press. Bad for our image.
I'm just saying that's my opinion. As a treasurer, as a guy who doesn't want all these funds to be just out there in the world, like who does it belong to, we don't know. I think the simplest thing is, you didn't contact us. You didn't come. You didn't take the meal. We paid for the meal. The show's over.
Tony, what's your opinion on that? Because I was under the impression that I was
kind of what Eric was saying, but out of fairness, I mean, the past 2 years have been just a total accounting nightmare.
Yeah.
And if the fest is done and it's the board's opinion that we call an endpoint to the financial activities, then anybody who didn't make it to take advantage of the funds that they contributed, we can shift over into the donations column.
Yeah.
And dues.
I'd make that a motion.
I'd second the
so-
The motion is, we're about to close the books for the first time ever. Before we do that, we will move anything that we might have owed this person. We will move it into the donation portion of his profile.
Well, and dues.
Period.
And
Dues,
dues.
dues first, and
first,
then donation.
donation.
Yeah.
If there
So
was
what
if there was a some circumstance, you know, I'm not saying you can't talk to us or me or whatever, but I think in general that I agree with this motion.
So what do you do? What do you do? Just because I want to make sure I cover all the bases here. What do you do for somebody like Mark Marlette that says, "Hey, I wasn't able to come this last fest, but can I apply the funds that I didn't use this fest to my 2022? Like, does it have to be a donation to the club, or can I apply it to my 2022 tables?"
Well, that's
Well,
what we're trying to
if
avoid.
What we did promise is that we are going to move his because of his request. He wants it all dues. So we took the $75,
Yeah.
and it'll over to 2026, I think.
Yeah, I get it. For him, I'm just saying, in general, I'm just using him as an example. But you're right. We got his answer. But what about other
If
people?
we
that
choose
don't have
not to
an answer?
contact, if we choose not to contact the person, we should simply put it in donations, because at any later date, if they would rather have it the other way, we can move it there.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
I
fine.
agree with
That's
Bob
fine.
that we shouldn't. If you want to contact us and request some kind of refund or reimbursement, that's fine. But I think we should just close it, say it's over, and you know.
I would probably, not that I can make the motion, but I would probably go to your original point of saying we're not going to offer any more refunds, but you will take your money and apply it towards dues and put the rest in donation. And like you said, later on, if you want to make that part of your fees for 2022, that's fine. But we're not going to give money back to people post tonight.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well,
Right.
it's still going to make the accounting very difficult if I've got 30 guys saying I bought a table last year, I wasn't there, I want to put it on the next year.
Right.
We
It
didn't
also
cancel
comes.
it. We
Okay.
reserved tables. You had your name on the table, but you didn't come.
Now,
Right.
if they didn't
It
call for a refund,
complicates Tandy list.
Okay,
Big time.
that's fine. Then I hear the motion. The motion that's being made is that we immediately take the funds that, for anybody who did not attend, their table and attendance funds will be used first for dues, and then the remainder will be placed in the donations column, and then the books will immediately be closed. They'll be finished for this fest.
Can I ask for clarification on that? When you say used for dues, you mean just 1 year's dues?
Yeah, that was my thought. Yes.
Yeah.
1 year's dues for each person they pay.
Well,
for.
it would be the 2021 dues.
Right.
Right.
Well, no, the 2020 dues.
Both.
Well,
No, it
No,
can't be.
we-
Let's hold. We cannot
can't-
do the
20
2020 dues because we extended the 2019 dues through to cover 2020.
that's
2020,
right.
right.
So
we can't do
Yes.
2020 dues.
it's just the
it'd be 2021.
Right.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yes. So, Rich, it would be 2021 dues. Just 1 year.
Would you, let's see, who made the motion? Would the person who made the motion consider amending it to be a maximum of 2 years dues, and anything over that a contribution?
Well, the problem with that is, I think what I'm hearing from Eric is he wants to put a line in the sand and say the money gets moved into the various columns now. And so what you're suggesting means we have to contact all those people and figure out whether they, do you want 1 year of dues? Do you want 2 years of dues? So I think the whole idea is We don't necessarily going to go reach out to other folks after this time. We just make a decision for everybody.
All right, but the counter argument.
Yeah, let them come to us if they want it changed.
Well, I think Rich, sorry, you were interrupted. What would you say?
Yeah, if we're going to set a deadline, that you need to contact us before such and such a date, and then we're close the books. We need to broadcast that deadline. The fact that we discussed it in a meeting is not good enough. It would have to be in a newsletter, I think.
Well, I disagree. I think the deadline was the fest. I mean, nobody expects a refund on a movie 3 days after the movie.
I agree.
I think that was the gist of the.
Well, that's not quite true, because my wife is going to be attending a movie a whole year after they couldn't deliver. So
well,
that happens.
We had the whole year after. We had the fest the whole year after, and we gave it to everybody. But now the people who don't show up to this movie that your wife is going to, are they going to be able to, in 3 months, ask for a refund if they didn't show up? Right.
No, they have to. The movie outfit dictated the date. Here's your date. Come to it, or it's over.
Yeah, and that's what we did with Coco Fest. So
yeah, I guess
clarification
on the floor. Let's vote.
Okay, hold on. I actually had a clarification request from Tony before you, Brian. You're next, so
okay.
Yeah, for clarification, did we not shift the calendar year for the dues termination to be the next Coco Fest? In
You
other
lost
words,
me.
okay,
Clear that up.
We say
Yes.
2021, but
yes, we did.
are not the dues actually extending the membership until the next Coco Fest in our bylaws?
yes,
And the dues are renewable upon the Coco Fest.
We
do
extended. We in 2020 we extended anybody who had their dues due in 2020 because we couldn't do the show. At that time, if you look back the minutes, we said we would extend those dues all the way until the next Coco Fest we had, which we just had. So anybody with 2019 dues who did not come is now, anybody who paid in 2019 got the freebie in 2020, and in November of 2021 is when their dues ended. And then the dues from 2021 cover people from November of 2021 until May of 2022.
Okay.
Okay. So Brian has called for the vote. So discussion is over.
I think I got it written right.
Okay. So all those in favor of a motion to close the books and use the monies that people who did not come, use those as 1 year of dues and the rest going in a donation. That is the motion on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay. So the motion carries.
And I would urge anybody who has an extenuating circumstance to get a hold of me, and we'll figure it out.
Okay. Any other new business?
One last thing. This is very
Okay.
small. I know
Okay.
we decided last year, and it was probably partly my fault because I put the wrong amount in for dinners to supplement dinners. Are we going to raise the price this year? And this doesn't need to be a vote or anything, but maybe we can think on it between now and next meeting or whatever. To talk
I'm going to defer that to Mr. Coco Fest coordinator to come to us with his thoughts on that in a future date.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll need
Currently,
obviously
currently we're
pizza.
asking $20 from everybody, and the food is 26, and I suspect it'll still be 26 in May. So let us know, Mr. Coordinator.
Okay.
Okay. Any other new business?
Just a quick question, which I hope we'll dispense with in 30 seconds. Does anybody who's here tonight know Fred Provancha? And is that somebody who came to the fest or not? I should know, but I don't.
Well, there was a.
Yes.
So I
do
noticed
know.
in the.
And he
I
was
noticed
there.
in. He was there.
Yes.
Okay.
I
'Cause I was going
did.
to say.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No,
Yeah,
that's sorry. I thought you were done.
Who's
No,
speaking?
it's Sloopy.
Hi.
Greetings. Yes, he was there. I did business with him. And that's about all I can say.
Okay.
Slooby, what is your last name?
Sloopy, the last name is Malibu. My legal last name is Lucky.
How are you in the database? As Lucky or?
I'm probably in there as Lucky.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, my nickname has been Sloopy for 35 years, so I'm used to people calling me that. So.
Yeah, they still call me Gator now and then. That's
I saw that.
50 years old.
Yeah.
I saw
Well,
that.
it's sort of
I'm
like when
78 now.
yeah, it's sort of like when I saw Jason Timmons. I was like, "Hey, do you know who Chris Lucky is?" And he looks at me, and goes, "No." And I'm like, "Do you know who I am?" And he's like, "Yeah, you're Sloopy." So,
All right.
Thank you,
Quick
Sloopy.
question.
Yep.
Quick question for Eric or Randy. I just been informed that Terry Steggy has already purchased 2022 Coco Fest, but it was for 2021 on the website. So is there a way we can remove that button until we get everything up and running for January?
Oh yeah,
I'll-
God,
I'll remove
yeah.
that.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
would.
People are
yeah.
already starting to register already, and they're just now realizing it's for 2021, not for 2022.
Yep. They shouldn't have been able to do that anymore. Okay. I will take all that down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for Terry Steggy. He just sent me a direct message.
Then we
Okay.
should refund him if we can with PayPal or whatever.
Yeah,
Immediately.
I would recommend a refund since we haven't determined prices yet.
Who is
Yeah.
this?
Terry Steggy.
Terry Steggy, previous vice president.
Yeah, let's do a PayPal refund on that and cancel that out.
Okay, I'm gonna let you guys sort that out.
Okay.
Any other new business? Okay. Well, I am going to close out the meeting. Actually, no, I'm going to entertain a motion to close out the meeting tonight.
Thank you, Sloopy, for your answer.
I will.
No problem.
I motion for this meeting to be adjourned.
Okay, Grant has moved to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Rich is seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, go have a libation, and I will talk to everybody later.
Yep.
All right. See y'all later.
Grant?
Bye.
See ya.
Grant
Yes,
already
yes.
went away.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. I still missed the name. You got a
Terry
notification?
Steggy. Terry Steggy. Steege.
You got a notification?
Yeah, he just sent me a message.
Oh, it was an email?